Hello, Irish fans, and welcome to another edition of Dome and Domer. My name is Mike Brammer. Joining me tonight, Mike Coffey from IndyNation.com. So, Coffey, we kind of predicted it pretty well last week. Let's see if we can do it again.
I don't know
We
about
talked,
that. I mean,
we talked about starting off strong. They did. They
yep,
scored right away.
you did, yep.
We talked about committing to the run. They did. They pretty
Mm-hmm.
much pounded it. We thought that was going to happen. But unfortunately, the identity that we've been looking for them to finally create for this team has come in two forms: Jekyll and Hyde. And they can not only do it between games, they can actually do it inside of a game, like they did against Syracuse.
True.
21-7 at halftime. They get the opening kickoff. It's 24-7. Next thing you know, it's 24-17, and Syracuse has got the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of were scratching your head like, how the hell did we get to this? But they bounced back and, took care of business and kept pounding the football, got away with a win convincingly. But is that what needs to change? Because I don't think that kind of play is going to translate into a W against a Clemson team.
I don't think so either. I think as much as I enjoy seeing them establish the run game the way they did, there has to be a little more balance there. I think that Tommy Rees is getting a little bit predictable in his play calls when you think like a lot of runs on first down. And as well as we were running the ball, I would have liked to see a little bit more play action there, because I think if the ground game is truly established and the safeties start creeping up, that's when you're supposed to use play action, like to get a big play behind them. And I didn't really see a lot of those. And
yeah,
I don't know whether it's just it's a Drew Pine limitation that he's just not being able to see the field, or I've read some articles that say he's having trouble getting through his progressions and stuff like that, which, if that's the case, and that's unfortunate, there's not really a lot you can do about that other than repetition, which you're not going to get a lot of in the middle of the season. So,
well, I think the difficulty in playing somebody like Clemson is you're not going to be able to script a game plan before the game starts and just do nothing but execute that.
mm-hmm.
This is the kind of game where Notre Dame has got to make in-game adjustments based on what they're seeing. And that puts a lot of pressure on Rees. It puts a lot of pressure on Freeman, because he's not really been in situations like this.
No.
And so when is he going to inject himself to make some in-game adjustments based on what he's seen? Because that's what it's going to take to beat Clemson. You're not going to line up and say, okay, we're going to establish the run. Now, granted, you're going to try that. You're going to see where that goes. But based on what Clemson does to respond against that running attack, you're going to have to make an in-game adjustment once they start stuffing it. And that, I think, is what's going to get interesting. And to your point with Pine, I do think that's a problem. I really do. I think, boy, Tommy Rees has got to get creative here and create some situations where Pine can find some success early, because we absolutely need him confident going into the third.
No doubt. No, absolutely.
Without that, we're going to be in deep trouble, because, like you said, you can only protect them so much with your play calling. You're not going to win a football game against Clemson if your play calling is based on protecting Pine.
No, that's true. I like the way the offensive line is playing. Certainly leagues better than the beginning of the season. I imagine getting Patterson back definitely helped in that regard. But I think you're dealing with a quarterback that has limitations, and I don't want to rip on the kid or anything like that. He's doing a great job in the situation that he's in. He's there's a reason he wasn't the starter, and I don't say that to overly criticize him, but we're in a situation where we're playing our second string quarterback, and you're right. It's on Tommy Rees to create situations to maximize his success. You can't be pounding the square peg into the round hole. You got to put together a game plan that plays to his strengths. And one thing I think they need to do is I'd love for them to come up with a couple more plays where Michael Mayer isn't the number one option, because one of the things Pine has to do better this Saturday. He can't just laser focus on Mayer and try to drill it into double and triple coverage. I mean, the number of times I know some people were at the game and said like the check down receivers were wide open and could have run for 5 or 10 yards, and Pine still has his eyes firmly set on where Mayer is and is trying to get the ball to him. And it's great to have an All-American tight end, but if he's drawing double and triple coverage, somebody's wide open. You got to find that guy, because that's where you're going to get. That's where you got to make the defense pay for making those adjustments and shifts.
Yeah, and I think the unfortunate thing for Notre Dame is Clemson's had 2 weeks to prepare for this. So the idea that Dabo Swinney is not going to find some holes is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah,
he's going to find them. I think Clemson is on 3rd and 4. Clemson is going to find a way to somehow double team Mayer. I mean, that's common.
Oh, definitely.
You're absolutely going to see that. Look, I mean, my gut instinct is if I'm Clemson, I'm putting 8 in the box until Notre Dame can force me out of that. Can basically beat one-on-one coverage on the outside, and we're going to find ways to double up on Mayer, and we're putting 8 guys in the box. And if you're going to run, you're going to have to run over us with that. And I just think it's going to be a huge challenge for us as a football team to find ways to get around that, to introduce some things that we have not introduced up to this point. Like you say, some of play action pass, but it's really some play action pass off of plays that we think might be go-to plays that we want to somehow not run that exact play and play an offshoot of it. So some misdirection based on some plays that we've been running consistently throughout the course of the season that we found some success with. You're going to have to play off of that, at least in a couple scenarios, in order to keep them honest. And I think you've got to find some of those in key situations to keep our drives going. Because look, I mean, like you say, Drew Pine is not the number 1 quarterback. He's the number 2. And whether anybody agrees or disagrees with that, the coaching staff felt like he was the number 2 guy. They did not think he was number 1. So that is what we're dealing with. And as a result of that, we're going to have to find some ways to do. One of the things I thought Pine might do, because I remember Book doing this a lot, as Book would drop back, he would kind of find those angles that would give him better vision. Yeah. So what he would not do is stand in the same spot. And if his center was moving right into his line of vision, Book would just sidestep a second to get through his progressions. I haven't seen Pine do that yet.
No.
It kind of looks like he's staying cement feet. I'm staying right where I'm at. I'm going to go through my progressions. And if a linesman is in the way, well, then he's in the way, Yeah. And I just think that's kind of, I'd love to see us do a little bit of rollout. We haven't done that this season. Okay, so why not roll the pocket a little bit? Why not move things a bit to at least create some scenarios where maybe Pine can find, even if we got to shift to one side of the field, give him a short route, a deep route. If neither one of them are there, all right, take off. Things like that we've got to do to kind of shake this up, because I think we can come out and try and run the football, and that is one of our strengths. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's possible we could run against Clemson, but not if they got 8 guys in the box.
No, it's going to be.
That ain't going to work.
No,
they're too talented for that.
Yeah, but part of me wonders. I mean, we haven't seen Pine take off all that often, and that was another thing. My friends who were at the game Saturday said there were some situations where he'd have a lot of space in front of him and probably could have gotten some decent yards. And I wonder whether part of it is, God forbid he gets his bell rung or something. Well, now we're on Steve Jelly, and I don't. That put a true freshman in there who's inexperienced. I mean, that could be an even worse situation. So it's possible that the coaching staff is telling him, listen, don't do anything crazy now, because I mean, he's gotten his bell rung once or twice already, and you don't want to be taking a true freshman to Southern Cal and trying to win a game. So I don't know. I really what bugs me, I guess, is that I was kind of hoping to see, even though Drew Pine, he is a second string guy, I was hoping to see some improvement, because the things we're talking about now are the same things we were talking about after the BYU game, and the same things we were talking about for the Stanford game. And it's kind of like, at some point, is the light going to go on here? And is Pine going to realize, hey, I need to get better at looking off guys. I need to get better at saying, okay, if I'm going here, then here, then here, and making it through those relatively quickly to make a good decision and find the open man, because we're running out of runway here. I mean, not that we're challenging for a playoff berth or something like that. I mean, 3 losses already, but I would really like to see this team finish 8-4 regular season at worst. 7-5 will be kind of like, yeah, well, I mean, they arrested the 0-2 free fall, but finishing 8-3 or finishing 9-3 regular season, that would show that not only did they arrest the fall, they actually improved over the course of the year. They corrected some of the issues. They became a harder team to beat and a team that was more capable of winning. And I would really, really like to go into Southern Cal 8-3, because I think that would be
well, that would be huge. I mean, I don't
for us.
look. I think at the end of the day, my gut instinct was we would probably split between Clemson and USC. My gut instinct was, so if we go 8-4, at the beginning of the season, I was okay with that, depending upon how we went 8-4. It was kind of like, all right, new coach, rookie, he's going to make some mistakes, probably cost us a game for sure. So in my mind, 8-4, okay, that's possible, but how did we get there? 7-5 would definitely be kind of disappointing. I mean, that's a little bit of a head scratcher, because you look at the schedule and you think, all right, where are there 5 losses on that schedule with what we got coming back, and the promise of just having continuity in the program. We got 2 guys that are head coach or coaches that were there the last 3 years. They kind of knew the culture. They knew what was going on. You just assume that they could continue with that. But look, I think this is all part of the plan. It's a big game. I think it's a huge challenge. I find it kind of difficult for us to come into this game to face what we're going to face in terms of Clemson, especially having an extra week. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. That is a huge advantage. And Dabo Sweeney's the kind of guy that knows how to take advantage of that. And I almost think it's an unfair advantage. I mean, to have 2 weeks and we get 1 week, you're going to be up against it. That's going to be a huge mountain to climb.
I think over the course of the game, that's true. I think maybe in the first series or two, I think maybe Notre Dame has the advantage a little bit. They played last week. They're in more of a rhythm, whereas Clemson didn't have a game last week. Sometimes it'll take you a little while to get back into the swing and stuff like that. But I mean, possible. I mean, I agree with you. I think having a week off definitely helps for game prep for a coach like Sweeney.
Just film breakdown. I mean, that's an extra week.
He's going to find something.
Yeah.
Now, granted, it's not like giving Nick Saban an extra week, but
right.
That's
Dabo's beating Saban, so it's not like he can't do that either.
That is true.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, ultimately, I think there's hope. Notre Dame is a good football team. At times, they can play some dominant. I mean, you look at the Syracuse game, and the head scratchers are, all right, 5 penalties in the first quarter. I mean, you literally, I think offensively, we had 35 yards we gave up in penalties in the first quarter. So, you tack that on to 1st and 10, and you're probably starting out on average 1st and 15 for every single possession that you had in the first quarter.
No,
you can't do that against Clemson.
No,
you're going to get your bell rung. You do that.
Yeah.
So the discipline of not committing. I mean, there's going to be a lot of pressure on us to stay disciplined, not commit penalties, and then also on top of that, not commit turnovers. Because again, I think Notre Dame's going to be forced to win the turnover battle if they're going to expect to win this football game.
Yeah.
And that's not easy to do against Clemson. I mean, that's a team that's a very opportunistic. They block some punts as well, so it's not like Clemson doesn't have the same kind of talent on special teams that we've
True.
got. So, things, in general, I mean, if you look at the stats, I mean, they've got a damn good running back. He's going to be tough to contain. That's not going to be easy on us. The quarterback is going to scramble and run for some yards. If you look at the film against us in the playoffs with Trevor Lawrence, I mean, that killed us. I mean, Trevor running on third down probably like 3 or 4 times, I think, that game, where he got the first down with his feet, not even throwing the football. And that's just huge pressure. I just think that it's going to be a challenge for us. The crowd is going to have to be A+ on its game,
I certainly hope
fired
so.
up. Otherwise, it's going to be a tough game for us to win, unfortunately. And I think there's just a whole lot there. I think it's possible. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not possible, but boy, do we have to have a lot of things go right if we have any chance of pulling out a victory.
No, you're right.
And I think it might even be on the defensive side of the ball is where we're going to need it most. Because I just don't think we can kind of put up the kind of points to match Clemson if they're average Clemson.
Yeah, that's going to be.
I don't see us putting 35 points on the scoreboard against Clemson, even though we're at home. I just don't see that. I can't see that happening. If we're going to win this football game, the defense is going to have to be lights out, and it's going to be a game in the 20s that we somehow eke out by 3 points. And that's obviously meaning a couple turnovers if they're not scoring 30 points.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think there has to be again, getting back to balance, not just on offense, but offense and defense. I mean, complementary football. There has to be the maximum effort put in by everybody. As you said, I don't think this offense has 35 points in them. I think they have maybe 24 points in them. The question is, can the defense hold Clemson to less than 24? And that's the $24,000 question. Now, it'll be interesting to see how does their quarterback, because he played really poorly against Syracuse, and then their stud freshman came in and led him on a couple drives. So if DJ comes out and doesn't play, if he comes out and lays another egg, do you put the freshman in there? This time on the road, night game, national TV. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to get. Well, I would think Notre Dame will probably go after DJ right away, just for that very reason. Yeah. I kind of sense that we're going to blitz him a bit early on to basically not get his confidence back. Because right now, I would agree with you. I think he's probably questioning a little bit. I mean, that's hard to do, to get taken out of a game. I mean, no quarterback ever wants that. Dabo right away in the press conference said, he's our guy. Don't read into this. So that'll be interesting. But I mean, this will be that back and forth that happens inside the game that's going to be so critical for us in terms of, what do we do and what are the situations we create. And I personally believe, boy, it's going to show Saturday if we don't make any kind of in-game adjustments, then I just don't see how we keep this thing close enough for us to have a chance to win it in the fourth quarter. So it's going to be will be interesting.
Given all the recruiting visitors who are coming in,
big night.
A good performance is critical. I mean, you want to look good in front of these guys, and it's.
You want the majority. You want that game still in doubt.
Yeah. And the problem is the home schedule this year has been really nothing to write home about, which is why they're all coming out for this Clemson game. So now you have all the eggs in this basket, and you can hope it. And I can see my way clear to saying, Clemson's played mostly ACC teams, and the ACC is really not that great this year, and we played Clemson just as tough, or Syracuse just as tough, not tougher than they did at their place and not at home. But then I just keep going back to Marshall and Stanford, and what happens if that kind of a performance pops up. And this time you're not playing a crappy team, you're playing a team that's ranked number 4 in the CFP and has the talent to really punch you in the face. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
You know,
All right, well, let's with that all being said, and not that you're in Vegas putting any money on this game, but what's your prediction?
I picked a 31-24 loss in our
Yeah.
contest. I as much as I want to pick them to win, they got to show me. I mean, if this was like if this team had taken care of business against like Marshall and Stanford and stuff like that, and it looked like quality, I'd be willing to go out on a limb. But I'm just too afraid that team is going to show up Saturday, and so that's what I picked.
Well, so if I were in Vegas, I would not be putting money on Notre Dame. So you will not see a tweet from me saying that Notre Dame's going to cover the spread. But by the way, I'm 3 for 3 for that this year. So
okay.
So hopefully nobody's following me betting wise. But anyways, 3.5 point spread at the moment. Clemson's favored, which basically on a neutral field means they're a 6.5 point favorite. Yeah. So it's right in line with where you're predicting.
Yeah.
But yeah, with the 3.5 point spread for Clemson, I do think Notre Dame has a chance to win this football game. I do think everything would have to go right. I think it's going to be a tough battle. I do think the Irish have a chance to win. I kind of think they might pull it off. So my heart is going to say 27-25. But I would not be shocked if you're closer to the final outcome and we fall short. And to be honest with you, either one of those outcomes, depending upon how that happens. But I just think that, with the situation we're in at the moment and what we've seen with our eyes, I mean, our eyes are the true test of where Notre Dame's at. And it's asking an awful lot to have the huge improvement we're going to need with Pine and with the offense to kind of put up the points to match with Clemson.
Sure.
And but I do think it's doable. I think the Irish might actually pull it out because the game hype being at Clemson, we won't have that letdown feel of the 2 games we lost in Stanford and Marshall. We're the underdog going into this. It's a night game. I kind of think that might turn the table. So it'll be interesting. We'll see.
I guess we will.
Who knows? We'll see. We can always hope. But it's going to be interesting. I really do think the back and forth during the game is going to be fascinating because you're going to see the ups and downs and the swings, and Notre Dame's going to get punched in the mouth, and we'll see if they can bounce back during the game because they're going to need to do that. There are going to be times in the game where we're going to get gashed. Shipley's going to go for a run, and we got to bounce back from that, and that's not easy to do against a team like Clemson.
I agree.
Yep.
I agree.
All right. We'll leave it there. You've been listening to Dome and Domer, an online conversation about Notre Dame sports from a fan's perspective. Mike Coffey, I'm Mike Brammer. Thanks for listening.